So in the last debate, Tulsi Gabbard, who was able to qualify for this past debate that happened on Tuesday, she used that opportunity to actually go after the mainstream media, specifically CNN and the New York Times, who just happened to be the ones that were sponsoring this debate, because it was airing on CNN, and then one of the moderators was from the New York Times, and by the way, that person was asking horrible questions, as I detailed on my coverage of the debate, my live coverage. So yeah, they all did a shitty job, but the guy from the New York Times was abhorrent. But Tulsi used that as an opportunity to call them out, because first of all, the New York Times smeared her in an article. Somebody named Lisa Lerer from the New York Times wrote an article titled "What Exactly is Tulsi Gabbard Up To?" And they were talking about how she was talking about boycotting the debate and shit, but they specifically used that article to smear her as being friendly to the alt-right and Russians, and which is not a surprising tactic. So obviously there's more to this whole thing than this, but it started off with this article, and this was before, I don't know how many days, maybe like less than a week before the debate, maybe 3 or 4 days before the debate. They put out this article where they basically, again, smeared her as friendly to the alt-right and the Russians, which not surprising considering what they've always been doing to her anyway. So that was kind of just like the first shot from the bow at Tulsi Gabbard, and I personally didn't think it would get further from that. I thought that would be enough considering what they've done to her before, but the mainstream media, as usual, overstepped their bounds, and they went even further. So CNN joined in on the fun here, and this was the night of the debate, I believe. Yeah, this was the night of the debate. So check out this clip on CNN where one of their guests, Bakari Sellers, smears Tulsi Gabbard. And this clip from CNN was laying the groundwork. This is my theory. This whole process started with the New York Times article, and now CNN got involved, and this is them laying the groundwork to go after her. So check this out, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
There is a chance that Tulsi's not just working for the United States of America, but I digress. So,
wait a minute. What does that mean?
That's not just an allegation. I firmly believe that.
Message is coming now.
No, here I know. Watch the bots come on Twitter now. I firmly believe that Tulsi Gabbard stands on that stage is the antithesis to what the other 11 individuals stand for, especially when it comes to issues such as foreign policy. There is no question. Yeah. There is no question that Tulsi Gabbard, of all the 12, is a puppet for the Russian government.
I mean, that was strong. How is there no question?
Well, I think that you look at her relationships, doing the bidding, her relationships and affection for people like Bashar al-Assad, her admiring somebody who we know to be a war criminal, propping them up. I think that those are questions that are going to have to be answered.
Obviously, with Syria in the news, obviously this will come up tonight. I mean, I don't know that it will be framed the way you are.
I mean, this guy said that, and he barely got any fucking pushback from the host there, which is Alison Camerado on CNN. So he just got away with like just a total smear there, just completely saying, putting it out there, just laying the groundwork about how, Tulsi Gabbard, totally. She's a Russian asset. She's a Russian working for the Russian government. Where's his proof? Nothing. He's got no evidence of that. Just pulled it out of his ass, completely made it up. So what does Tulsi Gabbard do? She calls out CNN and the New York Times directly to their face, not only for Bakari Sellers' comment there, but also the New York Times article that was, as the New York Times article that I detailed what exactly is Tulsi Gabbard up to. So, and by the way, Bakari Sellers was somebody that was smearing Bernie Sanders in 2016 too, because he was a big-time Hillary Clinton advocate and surrogate supporter, whatever he was. And he was a big-time supporter of hers, and he used that opportunity to smear Bernie Sanders in 2016 with a bunch of bullshit. And I remember calling him out on Twitter for that and shit too, because he's a fucking smear mushroom. And that's clear. It's clear that he's continuing that trend in 2020, 2019, and 2020 as well. So check out Tulsi Gabbard on the debate stage, basically the first question that she received, and she just lays into CNN and the New York Times here. Check it out.
Congresswoman Gabbard, last week you said that American troops should get out of Syria now. You don't agree with how the president handled the withdrawal. what would you have done differently? How would you have pulled out troops without the bloodshed we're seeing now?
Oh, first of all, we've got to understand the reality of the situation there, which is that the slaughter of the Kurds being done by Turkey is yet another negative consequence of the regime change war that we've been waging in Syria. Donald Trump has the blood of the Kurds on his hand, but so do many of the politicians in our country from both parties who have supported this ongoing regime change war in Syria that started in 2011, along with many in the mainstream media who have been championing and cheerleading this regime change war. Not only that, but New York Times and CNN have also smeared veterans like myself for calling for an end to this regime change war. Just 2 days ago, the New York Times put out an article saying that I'm a Russian asset and an Assad apologist and all these different smears. This morning, a CNN commentator said on national television that I'm an asset of Russia. Completely despicable.
Damn. All right. Well, Tulsi is not having their shit, not dealing with their bullshit there. So you can see she's not happy, and so that was her attempt at quelling all of that any of that bullshit there. So that was good to see. Definitely, that was a good thing to see there. But it's obviously that's not like the mainstream media isn't going to take that laying down. And the corporate Democrats and the mainstream media, they're not going to put up with that shit. So who do they send in? Queen Hillary. Who else? So Queen Hillary Clinton, decided to chime in on this during an appearance on David Plouffe's show. So David Plouffe is a former, I believe, advisor to Barack Obama. Seems like a lot of these guys are getting podcasts now. So he has a podcast, and he had Hillary Clinton on here. And check out what she says. So this is, again, CNN, New York Times started they started off with the first shots at Tulsi. And then CNN has a guest on that says the same thing as what New York Times is saying. Tulsi goes on, attacks them rightfully, calls them out, and then what do? They send out the big dogs, and it's Hillary Clinton. Now look at what she says.
So one, it's connected to the discussion we just had, and actually about social media earlier in our discussion. Donald Trump, as you know better than anyone in the world, only got 46.1% of the vote nationally. He got 47.2 in Wisconsin, 47.7 in Michigan. If you had said those before the election, you would have said he's going to lose in a landslide.
Right.
But one of the reasons he was able to win is the third-party vote.
Right.
And what's clear to me, you mentioned, he's going to just lie. I mean, you forgot, he's going to say whoever our nominee is will ban hamburgers and steaks, and you
Absolutely.
can't fly and infanticide, and people will believe this. So how concerned are you about that? For me, so much of this does come down to the win number. If he has to get 49 or even 49.5 in a bunch of these, I don't think he can. So he's going to try and drive at people, not to vote for him, but just to say, you can't vote for them either. And that seems to be, I think, to the extent that I can divine a strategy, their key strategy right now.
Well, I think there's going to be two parts, and I think it's going to be the same as 2016. Don't vote for the other guy. You don't like me, don't vote for the other guy, because the other guy's going to do X, Y, and Z, or the other guy did such terrible things. And I'm going to show you in these, flashing videos that appear and then disappear, and they're on the dark web and nobody can find them. But you're going to see them, and you're going to see that person doing these horrible things. They're also going to do third party again. And I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third party candidate. She's the favorite of the Russians. They have a bunch of sites and bots and other ways of supporting her so far. And that's assuming Jill Stein will give it up, which she might not, because she's also a Russian asset.
Agent,
yeah, she's a Russian asset. I mean, totally. And so they know they can't win without a third-party candidate. And so I don't know who it's going to be, but I will guarantee you they'll have a vigorous third-party challenge in the key states that they most need it.
Okay, so first of all, Jill Stein isn't even the nominee for the Green Party. She's not running in 2020. I think they're going with Howie Hawkins. He's another guy that's been a a favorite of the Green Party and has been, I think he's tried to run before too, within the party's primary process. So it's Howie Hawkins. It's not Jill Stein. So what are you talking about her giving up the reins? She's not even in. She's not even running. So I don't know what you're talking about. That's A. B. So again, she points to zero evidence. She just puts it out there. Oh, she's got bots and she's got this and she's got that. It's just whatever. And by the way, she's referring to Tulsi Gabbard. She doesn't say Tulsi's name. They ask her or one of her advisors later, and her advisors basically say, yeah, they make some like snarky joke or something, and they say, yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, if the glove fits, yeah, pretty much. Like they don't say it outright. So it's like, why can't you just say her name? So that's the thing. If they would have said her name, then it would have been slander. Even though, well, Bacardi Sellers said it and he didn't. That's not considered slander. But Hillary Clinton's too fucking scared. She's coward. She's a coward, so she doesn't want to say it outright. So she just say, oh yeah, Tulsi Gabbard, wink, wink, nod, nod. Yeah, she's a favorite of the Russians. Zero proof, zero evidence. I'm just going to put it out there. Yeah, so that's, I mean, she's just like, but listen, this is, if you notice, this is becoming the anatomy of a smear. You see this? This is what the mainstream media does. They put this stuff out there and they start and develop a smear job against somebody and anybody that, dares to call out the establishment. And it's something that this is what they do. They're so good at doing these kind of things, and they're so good at, trying to again, sow discord, but more importantly, manufacture consent and manufacture something that is not true, but you just put it out there and you're just like, I don't know, make your own determination, right? The media just puts out the information, you make up your own mind. It's the old Fox News trick. We report, you decide. But yeah, if you're reporting misinformation and bullshit, how are we supposed to decide? We decide by, believing a bunch of shit that you're saying that's not even true. So, I mean, it's the classic Fox News trick, and the mainstream media is using it, to their advantage, and these are the same people that claim Fox News isn't real news. No, you're not real news. None of you are real news. You, Fox News, none of you. MSNBC, all of you guys are fucking frauds and propagandists. Okay, so let me get to some of the attacks, the smear jobs that were lobbed against her. So like kind of the, post-debate, post-Hillary Clinton comments that were lobbed against her, kind of basically backing up what Hillary Clinton said. So this is going to be, hold on. So I'm going to play these. This is 3 different clips, 3 different segments, all in one. It's just like a mashup of the 3 different segments where CNN used it to, push the kind of the whole Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset thing. So check out this. Check out this clip here, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Experts say that Gabbard has been covered more by certain Russian propaganda arms and has had moments of her campaign trumpeted by bots and trolls on Twitter that do have ties to Russia. It is pretty shocking to me to hear her use these terms. Her campaign wasn't known for throwing caution to the wind. She certainly wasn't in 2016. And these comments about Gabbard, about Stein, certainly show that she's doing that. Now, part of the reason is she's a former Secretary of State. She cares a lot about issues dealing with Russia, Ukraine, and meddling. But it's also because she thinks 2020 is so important and doesn't want what she believes happened to her to happen again in 2020.
Let's bring you in now, and we won't hog the conversation anymore. At the debate, Tulsi Gabbard talked about a regime change war in Syria, which critics and some experts call a Kremlin talking point. She faced criticism for meeting with Assad and refusing to call him a war criminal, and we've seen reporting from the New York Times that shows interest in Gabbard among Kremlin-linked news sites. So tell me, how do you see this?
Well, Don, I think that there can't be any doubt that the Russians are indeed planning more shenanigans, more attacks on our democracy, more active measures for 2020. And we know that they've probably learned something from 2016, and so they're going to be a little bit better about it. They're definitely looking for ways to create, if you can imagine such a thing, more political chaos in the United States, greater friction, and greater problems between ourselves and our allies. So, it makes all sorts of sense. If I'm the Russian intelligence officer who's responsible for running that operation, for trying to disrupt the 2020 elections, I'm going to be looking for people, who might draw, votes away from the Democratic favorite, somebody who is going to cause chaos, who's going to make us have the very conversation that we're having having right now.
So do you see any evidence of it?
Our own system.
Do you see any evidence of it, and also where it relates to Tulsi Gabbard? Is Hillary Clinton onto something?
I think there is evidence of it, but I'm not sure it's completely associated with Tulsi Gabbard. I think Hillary Clinton probably went a step too far when she said Gabbard is an asset, but that's a phrase that's thrown around, all the time.
But they're saying the Russians may be using her. I think that's what she said she means.
Yeah, the Russians are always looking for people, many of them well-intentioned, who don't understand how well Russians can manipulate a situation. And Tulsi Gabbard does fit into that category, as did Jill Stein and a whole lot of other American politicians. So the Russians are definitely looking for something. Whether they've focused in on Gabbard, like Clinton says, I don't know that there's any evidence for that yet.
I think a lot of Democrats were skeptical about Tulsi Gabbard before. She's aligned with Hindu nationalists. She's aligned with right-wing authoritarian figures like Sisi in Egypt and other figures, that are controversial that Democrats don't typically support. She's got an anti-gay past.
So you can see it. CNN is in the business of, and to be fair, I'm going to play some segments that it's going to kind of be surprising, but CNN is in the business of making sure that they smear Tulsi Gabbard as much as possible, at the expense of the establishment, so that the establishment can feel better about themselves, making sure that the Russian asset and the Putin apologist and the Assad apologist isn't around to fuck anything up. Basically, that's the whole mentality. You have to, basically, it's like Operation Get Rid of Tulsi, right? So that's their whole mentality. And CNN is doing this, and CNN loves doing this. And now I'm going to play one more segment here, which is interesting. But before I get to that, notice all the talking points that they're putting out there. So they're talking about how, she's totally using a rhetoric that the Kremlin likes, and the Kremlin, those are experts say that these are Kremlin talking points. That's what Don Lemon was saying. The Kremlin has been using these, or they like these talking points, and this is what they like to hear. And the experts have come up with they've analyzed it, and they figured out that's what they like to hear. It's like it's just like a bunch of assumptions and just made up bullshit where just because you say that you're in favor of you're against regime change wars, all of a sudden you're a Putin apologist and a Russian asset or whatever it is, Assad apologist. Because we're not against endless wars and regime change wars and endless wars and wars where we're killing innocent people. Because you're against that, because you're anti-imperialist, apparently that means you're in favor of you're on the Russians payroll or something, or on the Putin payroll, and you're apologizing for that. Okay, well, if that makes me a Putin apologist, then I'm fully on board with that, because I'm standing up for not pushing endless wars. I don't understand how that's a bad thing. These people are idiots. They think that's a bad thing. It's so absurd, and they think they've got it all figured out. So I want to play this. I want to play this one last clip from. It's one last negative clip, at least from. This is actually MSNBC. It's a short one. Look at these idiots chuckling at Tulsi Gabbard's response to Hillary Clinton, because she responded via Twitter. She responded via Twitter by basically, she called her the queen of warmongers and stuff, which was an excellent response by Tulsi. So check out these MSNBC idiots, pundits, laughing at the fact that she got called out.
One thing that was interesting about Tulsi Gabbard's response, she went after Hillary Clinton. She was strong. She said that she wasn't going to run as a third-party candidate. She never denied being a Russian asset. That was the one aspect that was missing from her response, you think that would be the first, in the first line or two. It was not there.
When Hillary Clinton says there's a Russian asset, doesn't say anybody's name, and Tulsi Gabbard goes, "How dare you call me a Russian asset?"
Right.
This is...
Well, wait, but to Kimberly's point, she didn't say
she didn't even say she wasn't.
She said it was a Russian asset. To your point, Hillary Clinton didn't name names, right. But there's Congresswoman Gabbard going me.
So she wanted the attention, of course.
Look at that. Look at how they regard Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, she's just looking for attention. But look, Tulsi Gabbard didn't deny that she was a Russian asset, so she must be a Russian asset. You didn't deny that you're not beating your wife, so you must be beating your wife. You didn't deny that you like to kill puppies and kittens. You must be in favor of killing puppies and kittens. You must be in favor of that because you didn't deny this absurd statement, this absurd characterization that is based on zero facts. Because you didn't deny it, you must be those things that this fucking troll, essentially what Hillary Clinton is these days, a troll, what this troll puts out there as fact when it's not even close to fact. Because you didn't deny their baseless accusation, that means you're agreeing with what they're saying. It's ridiculous. It's fucking idiots at MSNBC, man. They've gotten even worse and worse every single time I watch them. So check out this. There's a couple CNN segments that actually ended up defending Tulsi Gabbard. It was surprising considering obviously it is CNN. This first one was from Van Jones. So Van Jones, he's a former Democratic operative, worked for the Obama administration. I think he's a contributor to CNN, I guess. So check this out and then talk about it on the other side.
Okay, so just a fact, huh? Tulsi Gabbard's a Russian asset and Jill Stein's a Russian asset. Out front now, Van Jones, host of the Van Jones Show. So that's how she puts it out there. I mean,
she's playing a very dangerous game. I mean, Hillary Clinton. If you're concerned about disinformation, if you're concerned, what the Russians do is they spread disinformation, they get us divided against each other. That is what just happened. Just throw out some information, disinformation, smear somebody. She is Hillary Clinton. She's a legend. She's going to be in the history books. She's a former nominee of our party, and she just came out against a sitting U.S. Congresswoman, a decorated war veteran, and somebody who's running for the nomination of our party with just a complete smear and no facts.
she called her a Russian asset as a fact, and as you point out, sitting U.S. Congresswoman.
A sitting U.S. Congresswoman. Now, this is a very, very dangerous game, and there's a backstory here. And there's two sides to every story. Let's not forget, Tulsi Gabbard was picked out by the Democratic Party establishment and put at the top of the DNC. They thought she was going to be their golden girl. And she got in that position, the DNC, and she looked around. She saw Debbie Wasserman Schultz and other people, Clinton allies, doing stuff they shouldn't have been doing in the primary. And Tulsi publicly quit and then endorsed Bernie Sanders. And it's been payback hell ever since.
And that's what we are here. But
payback hell ever
since. Gabbard's responded with a tweet storm. She says, "Thank you, Hillary Clinton. You, the queen of warmongers, embodiment of corruption and personification of the rot that has sickened the Democratic Party for so long, have finally come out from behind the curtain. From the day I announced my candidacy, there has been a concerted campaign to destroy my reputation. We wondered who was behind it and why. Now we know it was always you. Through your proxies and powerful allies in the corporate media and war machine, afraid of the threat I pose, it's now clear this primary is between you and me. Don't cowardly hide behind your proxies. Join the race directly."
Yeah, getting kind of hot. It's getting kind of hot, and this is a problem. We're headed down this spiral staircase. You had a Pelosi and Trump. You had a big blow up there. Whoever you blame, you can't be proud of America when you have food fights breaking out in the White House between the top leadership. You can't be proud when we can't have a primary without the former nominee jumping on a podcast, throwing out aspersions, and then we're in a tweet war. We got real problems in America. But I'm telling you, Hillary Clinton is playing a very dangerous game. I do not want somebody of her stature to legitimate these kind of tactics against anybody. If you've got real evidence, come forward with it. But if you're just going to smear people casually on podcasts, you're playing right into the Russians' hands.
Right, and they could be, Russians can be backing someone. This is very different than calling that person a Russian asset.
Well,
I think it's just important.
It's really, really, really disappointing.
That's a very surprising take from Van Jones. Not so much Van Jones, but it's the fact that that CNN would bring him on, and even Erin Burnett, she's the queen of just like fucking establishment, establishment status quo, and just pushing out all that establishment rhetoric that we always hear from the mainstream media. It's very surprising to see her actually, sounding fairly sane and putting out an opinion that's not ridiculous. But Van Jones is right there. She is playing a dangerous game, and she is putting out misinformation, and she's getting away with being able to put misinformation. And it's really sad that, Hillary the troll can say these things and get away with it, and everybody's totally okay with it. Luckily, like I said, they're, CNN is going out there and saying, yeah, this is fucked up. You shouldn't be doing this. So there's this one more segment here I want to play for you guys where they have kind of a similar conversation. It's a panel of 4 women here that are having the conversation, and majority of them seem to agree that Hillary was stepping over the line saying this. Check it out.
Just because she has views that might align with Russia on some matters, including Syria, for example, is that really responsible for Hillary Clinton to say she's a Russian asset, like something out of the movie Red Sparrow?
Right, and something off of sort of social media in the Twitterverse too, as well, because this is what you hear. If you're on Twitter, this is a lot of the conversation around Tulsi Gabbard from many Democrats who do see that she or feel like she is something of a spoiler in this race, that her views align with Russia in many ways. But it's surprising coming from Hillary Clinton in many ways. But again, she went through this in 2016. I think part of her strategy here is to say there are always these things that could be going on in this election that we didn't pay attention to in 2016, and she's sort of raising sort of the warning signs going forward for what might happen in 2020. That is sort of a charitable view of what she could be doing.
So Gabbard just tweeted a response. Let me read it. She said, quote, "Great, thank you, Hillary Clinton. You, the queen of warmongers, embodiment of corruption and personification of the rot that has sickened the Democratic Party for so long, have finally come out from behind the curtain. From the day I announced my candidacy, there has been a concerted campaign to destroy my reputation. We wondered who was behind it and why. Now we know it was always you, through your proxies and powerful allies in the corporate media and war machine, afraid of the threat I pose. It's now clear that this primary is between you and me. Don't cowardly hide behind your proxies. Join the race directly." Now, there is a bigger foreign policy debate to be had, and Tulsi Gabbard very aggressively talks about ending the forever wars. She's a veteran. She has standing to say that. Now she's saying, Hillary Clinton, you're behind the smear campaign against me. Join the race. It's you against me.
Yeah, so they're not friends right now. Listen, Gabbard's statement is a little overwrought, but she has every right to defend herself. A former Secretary of State is just declaring her to be a Russian asset. That is deeply unfair. And if you have a problem with the way that Donald Trump smears people, well, you need to take a look at Hillary Clinton, because what she just did to Tulsi is no better than what Donald Trump does to people all the time.
And Hillary Clinton goes on, Nayara, to suggest that Putin has compromising dirt on President Trump. And so what do you make of that?
Well, we do know that Russians writ large do look for opportunities to peel off third-party candidates, so as the Jill Stein challenges, and that individual states can turn on 1 or 2 percentage points. So I think there's a broader question of how Russia is going to look to take advantage of 2020 and instill its own version of chaos, 2.0.
Mueller, I don't think, was able to find any evidence of this rumor that the Russians have anything. But I'll tell you, all this discord, I'm not blaming this on anybody in this country, but Putin, I'm sure, loves this.
Of course they do. This is exactly what they did lay out in the Mueller report, just how much they like to sow disinformation. That's why when Hillary Clinton makes a claim like this, there are valid critiques of Tulsi Gabbard, but to say something like this, it just makes you wonder.
Well, just bring the evidence if you have it, and if not, don't say that
and don't say it on
a Russian
background.
asset.
She didn't say, she couldn't even confirm it in her own words that it was Tulsi she was referencing. An aide confirmed it in a background statement.
She's going to own it now.
Notice that last part. That last part is important because that guest says the Russia. Well, also obviously what's his name said it too. Jake Tapper said it there that the Russians love this, and that's. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to obviously buy into all this Russia-phobia stuff, but if you want to take the Russiagate stuff seriously, because they talk about how the Russians like to sow discord and stuff like that. He's right though. If you want to take that narrative to its ultimate point, that the Russians, they love the idea of sowing discord and stuff, and they love, whatever, Democrats and stuff going after each other, but not so much Republicans, certainly just Democrats going after each other, black people against white people and Mexicans and against white people and this and that. But the ironic thing is, and he made that statement, he says, obviously the Russians are loving this, and then the woman that he asked the question to kind of confirmed his point. Hillary Clinton, ironically, is the one who is doing it. So the person that claims that these Russians are, made swung the election and made people vote for Donald Trump over me because he's a Russian whatever asset or he's a Manchurian candidate, whatever. but she's the one that's going out there and helping sow the discord. So she's the one going out there and saying Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset or whatever. She's the one who's sowing the discord. So she's taking part in exactly what she accused, everybody else of doing, in the sense of the Green Party and, I don't know, Susan Sarandon and Jill Stein and, I don't know, whatever journalist that wasn't kissing Hillary's ass. She's, everything that she was accusing them of in 2016, she's doing right now by going out there and saying Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset. And it's absurd and it's ridiculous. And honestly, Hillary Clinton is just going out there just wanting to get attention. She's going on different shows like The View and stuff, doing interviews, and she's doing like fucking speaking tours and stuff. She's so obsessed with getting attention. She loves the attention, being on herself and being kind of at her disposal, so that she can get people fawning over her and buying into her bullshit talking points. So, and then finally, I want to play this last segment where this CBS News reporter asks Tulsi Gabbard. She interviews her and asks her questions about Hillary Clinton's comments. Check it out.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is responding to Hillary Clinton's comments suggesting that a 2020 candidate is being groomed by the Russians. Congresswoman Gabbard joins me now from Iowa City, Iowa. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being here with us. So, in
Aloha,
full,
thank you.
What did you make of Secretary Clinton's comments this week?
Let's be clear about what this is about. Really, that if anyone stands up and speaks out to end the regime change war policies our country has had for so long, the likes of which we've seen waged in Iraq, Libya, and ongoing in Syria, we will be labeled as foreign agents. We will be labeled as traitors to our country. So really what this is a message to every veteran in this country who has put their life on the line to serve our country, to every single American who believes strongly that we must end this long-standing foreign policy of being the world's police and waging these regime change wars, which is really the legacy of Hillary Clinton. Then we are traitors to the nation that we love. This is despicable on so many levels.
When you say regime change wars, what do you mean by that?
This long-held foreign policy of the United States, of which Hillary Clinton was a champion of for a very long time, of going around the world, acting as the world's police, overthrowing and toppling dictators that we don't like. Again, wars that I've served in, the war in Iraq, the toppling of Gaddafi in Libya, and the ongoing regime change war in Syria. This is what we're talking about. This is what I have been strongly calling for an end to. And this is the reason why she and her minions are trying to smear me, smear my character, and undermine my campaign, labeling me as a foreign agent, as a traitor to my country.
But Congresswoman, with respect, Clinton did not explicitly name you in that podcast. So why are you addressing her comments and bringing more attention to them?
Come on, let's be real here. Look at every single headline that's come out of her comments on that podcast. Every single one has my name in there. So let's not mess around here and pretend that it wasn't something that it was.
Would you ever consider running as a third-party candidate, as she believes?
No.
You possibly would.
No, I've said that many times before. I've been very clear. I will not be leaving the Democratic Party. I will not be running as an independent or a third-party candidate. I am running as a Democrat to take our party back, away from the control of people like Hillary Clinton and the warmongering and corrupt, powerful establishment, and return our party into the hands of the people. Make it so the Democratic Party is once again a party of, by, and for the people, a party that will fight for the people, fight to protect our planet, and that will fight for peace.
If it's not you, though, are you concerned about there potentially being a third-party candidate to emerge?
I want to stay focused on exactly what's happening here, because this is a dangerous message that's being sent to the American people, that if anyone, any veteran, any service member, any American stands up and speaks out for ending these regime change wars, of ending this long-held foreign policy, this is how they will be treated. So I'm calling on every American to stand with me as we stand up for the truth, We stand up for peace. We stand up for our freedoms, including our freedom of speech in this country, and invite them to join my campaign in doing this.
And freedom of democracy, I'm sure. So how concerned are you about Russian meddling in 2020?
Once again, this is not about Russia. Let's stay focused on the issue at hand here, that Hillary Clinton is labeling me as a foreign agent and a traitor, smearing and undermining my campaign, both directly herself and indirectly through her proxies, who've been doing this really since I announced my candidacy for president. The reason why she's doing this is because she knows that she can't control me. She knows that she's not going to be able to manipulate me if I'm elected president, to be able to continue these warmongering policies that she has championed throughout her career. This is about bringing our party back, bringing our country back into the hands of the people, and ensuring our government is fighting for the people, fighting for our planet, and fighting for peace.
And you're using strong words here. You've also used strong words toward Secretary Clinton on Twitter. Has she said anything to you specifically?
I have not personally heard from her.
All right, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good night.
So that was a very poignant and strong message from Tulsi Gabbard. She didn't want to take any of Hillary Clinton's bullshit laying down. She went after her just like she went after the New York Times and CNN in that debate, and she called them out. But listen, this last final clip I played here is the again, it's an anatomy of a smear. It leads everything up to the point of like, okay, so we're going to do a final interview. We're going to do an interview with after all the times that she's been smeared on CNN and MSNBC and all these different channels. We're going to do an interview with her and just repeat the same fucking bullshit. Russian asset, Assad apologist. What is a? So then she asked her, what do you mean by regime change wars? She's asking her that because that's just like Don Lemon said. That's a rhetoric used by the people, by the Kremlin. It's pushed by the Kremlin. The idea of the rhetoric of regime change wars. So again, that's why she's asking what she means by that, and it's to put in the minds of the people that, oh look, she's using the rhetoric of the right of the Russian government. Terrible. I can't believe it. She must be a member of the Russian government if she's using the same rhetoric as them. It's so stupid. Like again, as if using the rhetoric of another country, what another country says is this somehow that's like. What is that? That doesn't mean anything. That just means that you have an agreement with somebody from another country. What's the big deal? As if you can't agree with somebody from another country says, or leaders from another country says. It's ridiculous. So anyway, this just shows how the media just loves to, smear somebody and specifically somebody that is not part of the establishment, and they just smear, and then when they ask them questions, they ask them bullshit questions, just like this reporter was doing, or this host was doing when they were talking to Tulsi, but she handled herself really well. And I want to give credit to CNN for having those couple of segments where they did bring on people, and some of their guests were like, yeah, this is bullshit, like she's going too far and this isn't right, and if you're going to be complaining about how Donald Trump attacks people, you should be taking issue with how Hillary Clinton attacks somebody like this too. And honestly, Hillary Clinton is in that mode of like, I don't give a shit, I don't give a fuck, I'm just gonna smear somebody the way I feel like it, and if you don't like it, then fuck off, basically. And Hillary Clinton doesn't care. She wants to make everything about herself. Hillary Clinton she's a sociopath, and she's a narcissist, and she's an opportunist, and she wants to make sure that the attention isn't taken off of her, and she wants to influence this primary. And if she wants to do that by attacking Tulsi, she's not gonna get away with that. People aren't going to take that laying down, and they're not. And she could easily go after Bernie Sanders if she wants to. And by the way, don't be surprised if she does go after Bernie Sanders at some point. I suspect that she will. But if she does, she's going to be doing that at her own risk. If she's going to go after Bernie, it's not going to turn out good for her, because she is going to be lambasted like crazy if she does that shit. If she tries to pull that fucking bullshit, she's not going to get away with that. And she probably thinks she can. She probably thinks she can, pull it off, and because she's her, and she thinks like, whatever, I can do. Nobody can say anything against me because I'm Hillary Clinton. She thinks she's like this, she's like this indestructible force, even though she lost an election to a fucking, crazy buffoon like Donald Trump. But she thinks she can say anything and get away with it, and nobody's going to say shit. But at the end of the day, she is going to get called out for her bullshit, and she's not going to get away with it. And at the end of the day, she's not making herself any more popular, which is why I'm thinking she just doesn't give a fuck. And she's not going to make herself any more popular, and she's not going to make herself look any better either. So just keep talking shit, from the sidelines. And then, at this point, all I got to say is let Bernie Sanders become president, and we'll see how Hillary Clinton reacts, because that's going to be a sight to see.